Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Two Thumbs Up podcast where we talk about all things mobile gaming. Today is one that I am not very excited. I mean, I'm excited for an episode of the podcast, but I'm not excited for the news that we're talking about. Those of you who watch YouTube or are on Twitter or really follow COD Mobile in any capacity, probably seen the leaks showing that Activision's plan, or no, sorry, Microsoft's plan upon acquiring Activision is to, quote-unquote, phase out COD Mobile as they start to introduce Warzone Mobile, mainly because it seems like COD Mobile is owned primarily by Timmy Studios, which is owned and operated in China by Tencent. So we're going to be talking about that today, what it could mean, what phasing out means, all that stuff. Ducky, you are, you're the one that killed COD Mobile. You killed COD Mobile, so I would love to hear your initial thoughts on everything.
This is like Pawn Stars when Rick's like, I think I know a guy. Let me bring in my expert. I am the expert on game shutting down now. This is why I'm here. So I don't know. For me, this is like another day in the office. Like, oh, hop on Twitter. Game's gonna shut down. Cool. Like, with Apex, I'd kind of already like detached myself a bit from the game, and I wasn't like playing that much. And I don't play too much COD Mobile, so like I definitely don't have as much of an emotional response as people who are like Bobby, who have only played COD Mobile for the last few years. But like it's just, I mean, so Apex Mobile. You posted about it, Bobby, where the CEO was basically saying like, oh, trust me, we know mobile gamers don't want this, so we're going to give them this instead, when no one ever said that. Mm-hmm. So this feels very similar, where some corporate executive at Microsoft is like, oh, well, COD Mobile, the game that makes us $30 million a month and has a higher, enjoyment rate than every other Call of Duty game we've ever made. Sure, let's axe it because we want to have a cross progression game on PC. It's so out of touch with mobile gaming that like as soon as the executives saw the dollar signs, they stepped in and do what they do best of just being out of touch and making decisions that only impact them and their bottom line, and it doesn't take into effect anything else that mobile gaming stands for.
Yeah. It's it is really, really confusing on just a number of levels. And to what you were referencing, in case people didn't see it, basically, I don't know if it was Respawn or EA put out.
It was the EAC, or no, it was their shareholder meeting.
Yeah. They said, well, Apex Mobile's coming back, but basically we're going to have cross progression. So what they're saying is Apex Mobile's going to come back at some point in the future, but we're going to make it like what Warzone Mobile is going to be. And yeah, obviously it does seem like they were on the same wavelength with the decision making for that. And there's just a lot of reasons why, to me, it doesn't make sense. I think the approach that Activision had was a really good one for a number of different reasons. So for those of you who don't know, Activision had explicitly stated in the past that their intent was to continue making content for both COD Mobile and Warzone Mobile, and that they would basically coexist in the mobile gaming space as two completely separate products. I think that was a really good idea. I'll say the reasons. Number one, COD Mobile, especially as it is right now, is way more optimized for lower-end devices. So number one, you have an option for both the high-end device users and low-end device users. Number two, not everybody wants to play Battle Royale. So the fact that you have a primarily multiplayer, maybe we won't say COD Mobile is a primarily multiplayer, but it feels like the majority of the fan base is definitely in the multiplayer area. So the fact that you have one game that's dedicated to Battle Royale, one that's dedicated to multiplayer, it just makes a lot more sense. You have an esports scene for multiplayer, which is another thing that's now completely up in the air, because if they're going to be phasing it out, then probably the first thing to go would be the marketing for it. And at the end of the day, esports is marketing for video games. So it's, I feel like this is not the right direction. Obviously, I'm emotionally tied to the game as well. But we do still have to kind of wait and see for a lot of the information, because as of right now, we don't know everything about what that's actually going to look like.
For me, my only hope is that the executives or someone at Microsoft is seeing the backlash, or maybe Call of Duty Mobile internally is reporting this to Microsoft, because at the end of the day, like, was the verbiage like, well, I think it did say like Call of Duty Mobile will be phased out. It wasn't like for Apex, I know they said, or the CEO said specifically, they have plans or they're looking at a reimagined version. So it's not like they didn't say we are releasing Apex Mobile 2.0, but this felt way stronger, and like it felt more or less of them being like, we are going to do this. But then again, I don't know. Yeah. Call of Duty Mobile is, it says expected to be phased out over time. So
yeah.
Even that leaves room for them to back out of their promise. This isn't something that is going to happen. It's something that, one, Microsoft hasn't bought Activision. It's most likely going to happen. But two, I think these are all just proposals they're like laying out to like governments and committees and like anti-monopoly people to be like, hey, we're not going to ruin gaming and monopolize it as Microsoft. So it's not set in stone, even if they do get acquired, Activision, because I think Activision would stand up for a game making them so much money with such little effort. Like, they don't really have that much lift every month to like make a battle pass, make a map, add some maps, some guns. Like, the esports scene is very small compared to a regular Call of Duty. And I feel like the overall marketing is less. It just feels like it's free money for them.
Yeah.
And players enjoy it. It's a game that, you can argue it if it's fun or not, but it's done a lot of good for the mobile gaming ecosystem. And it just feels so incredibly out of touch to be like, well, we're going to just axe it for Warzone Mobile. It's got a multiplayer. You guys can play 2 maps on it, right? You guys can level up your guns. That's basically COD Mobile. Like, that's what it feels like they're doing in a way. And it makes sense. I will say the multiplayer in Warzone makes a ton of sense now.
Yeah.
It makes so much more sense. Less of leveling up guns and more of giving an alternative to people that are going to be maybe phasing out of the game.
Yeah, and they have now added Hardpoint into Warzone Mobile. They haven't added Search and Destroy, which is obviously one of the most popular game modes in COD Mobile. But with this change happening, it could be something that happened. The other thing is, the intention, from my understanding, for multiplayer in Warzone Mobile previously was mainly just to grind camos, and that's the reason that the majority of the maps are just subsections of the actual Verdansk map as opposed to being like actual Call of Duty maps. But they have teased, and this was actually a while back, so maybe this is something that they knew was going to happen and just weren't allowed to say anything about it. But they had teased a while back the fact that Shoot House is going to be introduced, I believe, on launch for Warzone Mobile. And obviously, that's not a section of the Verdansk map. That is a unique individual map itself. So it could very well be that we start to see, if COD Mobile's being phased out, some of those maps introduced back in. Once again, there's still the question of, what does phased out even mean? Does it mean they're going to slowly start to decrease or increase the length of the seasons until there's no more updates and the game just stays the same? Or does phased out mean the game is gone, your purchases are gone? Because if that happens, I think they're going to lose the trust of a lot of their player base. But at the same time, at the same time, because of the way that it seems like Timmy basically owns COD Mobile, I don't know if there's a way to negotiate that contract where the game just stays and they keep the server space up. Like, if Timmy's not making money from it, I don't know if they would allow it to stay in place.
So is COD Mobile Garena, is that COD Mobile China?
No, it's just a different publisher. Yeah.
It's the same. I'm just so confused of where they say, because I definitely get the same feeling of, for me, this is how it feels. It's Microsoft. They're taking over Activision. Activision is one of Activision's most popular titles is a mobile title, which they want to enter the mobile space, but it's owned by a competing game studio in a different country that is also, like, they own Epic Games. Like, it's a direct competitor to Activision. So they are not going to actively want to pursue this relationship. They're going to want to sever the ties, make their own mobile game that's developed in-house by Activision, and push all of their users toward it. So, like, I get their, I think that's their reasoning. And someone even brought up the point of, like, maybe with this whole strategy, like, they're trying to phase out players to then make a Call of Duty, like, Modern Warfare mobile, like, not even Warzone, like a straight up multiplayer, just COD on your phone. Like, gone are the days of going to GameStop and buying Call of Duty. Like, you just download COD on your phone and you play it that way. So the phasing out it's weird because it says expected to be phased out over time. outside of China. So in China, they're still planning to be able to allow them to develop the game, which, I mean, they'd have to have the rights to the maps and the modes and the guns and the skins and the characters. Like, there's no way they could keep developing COD Mobile without all of that. So I personally don't think it'll be like they remove the rights to everything, because it's a very delicate thing. If you're already phasing out the game, you don't want to make people more upset than you're already going to, especially if you want these players to convert to other games you're making. So I think this is them, in my mind. It's like, okay, let's say Warzone comes out May 15th. Then maybe in 6 months, they start to slow down the pace of content. And like a year after Warzone Mobile's been out, like COD Mobile just kind of chills. Like, it's like Black Ops 2. Like, the servers stay online. Exactly. You keep your guns, you keep your skins, you keep everything, but no updates. You just play the game. It's like Fortnite Mobile on iOS. You can play the game to this day. The servers are up, but there's been no updates, no new skins, no changes, no nothing. But you can still play it. So I don't know. It's just so early as well, and it's fear mongering doesn't do any good. But it's also a very real possibility that like this will end up happening.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really interesting is the fact that COD Mobile China is going to be continuing to operate. So if that's the case, it does seem like Timmy still has some sort of rights to the Call of Duty title. It could be part of Tencent's or part of Activision's negotiation in that they would allow them to continue developing it for China and selling skins there, and in return keep the servers up and running as it is for Call of Duty Mobile in the global version, and just not put out the content that people are purchasing there. But it is most definitely still very, very up in the air. And like you said, Call of Duty has been phasing out games for the last like 14 years, however long they've been making online multiplayer Call of Duties. They've been phasing out content, because basically every year there's a new game that is brought out, and it is the mainline Call of Duty game. The game for the past year is phased out. Obviously, this is not something that COD Mobile players are used to, and I think that's a big reason why so many people are surprised, is because people are like, oh, the game's just going to stay. I'm going to keep my skins, because it's not something that there's really a precedent for. Obviously, it's not something that I'm excited for by any means, but if it does happen to be the case, it's not necessarily something that's new for Activision.
Yeah, I think you tweeted about this as well, or something along the lines of like, if this is the case, then Warzone Mobile is going to be one of the best, if not the best, mobile games of all time. If their plan is to virtually, after a year, I'm just chucking out a year as like a rough timeline, but like after a year, make Call of Duty Mobile obsolete, they better have one killer of a title to offer the players that they're kicking off their platforms if they want to retain them and keep, making money off of them. Or offer some sort of compensation package of like, oh, you spent $1,000 on a game. Here's $200 in currency to spend on this, or something to make those players happy and stay. But also, like you said, the optimization isn't really there. Like, Warzone has got a very long way to go to get to the place where it can compete against Call of Duty Mobile's multiplayer scene. The Battle Royale scene, I think everyone's happy to jump ship and go try something new. But for the multiplayer scene, like, that's it. If you want to play a multiplayer quick game mode 5v5 TDM, you have like Brawl Stars and COD Mobile. So if you want a shooter, you have COD Mobile, and that's basically it. So I think they have to be competent. Like, there's no way they're doing this in such a blind fashion like Apex, like shutting down a game, giving out no refunds.
Yeah.
They're not shutting down the servers, but all this just to relaunch a game. So I hope this means that Warzone Mobile is going to get like unprecedented amounts of marketing and support, which already it already kind of is. The game hasn't come out, and we've had 3 IRL events so far, like London, COD Next, and the booth at COD
Stage 5.
Yeah, Stage 5 Champions. Apex Mobile is out for 9 months, nothing. PUBG Mobile, these games do once a year. Warzone's done 3 in 6 months. So like they're already building the foundation for making it like the biggest mobile game of all time. But listen, I mean, did you see that? You see the tweet of someone was like, "Oh my god, look at the cracks in the ground."
What do you mean? I tweeted about it. I tweeted about how stupid it was.
I thought that was Winsanity. Sorry,
that was me. It's
So, I don't want people to get like, I don't want people to take these words of like it's gonna be the biggest game ever and put these crazy expectations on it because like right now it's not ready for release. It's not marginally close. Like I'm getting pretty confident that we're not going to see the game release on May 15th. Every day that they even tweeted today, they were like, we can't say like soon anymore because we've used that word too much. Now we're saying very soon. So maybe we get information in the next week. I mean, it would make sense if you're 2 months out, we get information around the 2-month mark of the game. I think it's going to be announced when the game's going to be pushed back, which I'm fine. But if they're going full steam ahead, then maybe COD Mobile gets phased out sooner than we expected.
Yeah. It's I don't think COD Mobile is going to be phased out soon. I think that like bare minimum, the earliest it could be gone is maybe beginning of 2025. But when you talk about the amount of time that is going to be required just to finish the purchase of Activision alone, you have like major changes that are going to be required in people changing positions, how their job's going to look, everything like that. There's a lot of changes that have to be made before you can even arrive at a point of something like phasing out a game. And also, if you're going to call it phasing out, then that automatically indicates that it's not going to be an immediate change. It's going to be something that takes place over time. So well, we'll have to wait and see. I did want to highlight a couple things. So obviously Ferg is the face of COD Mobile. So he tweeted out, COD Mobile is not shutting down.
Obviously.
Maybe. That's the thing, because you replied to Hawksness. I think Hawksness had the best response to this in that we can't say anything with any type of certainty. COD Mobile is probably not shutting down, but it might be shutting down. Or maybe the implied for Fergs was COD Mobile is not shutting down yet. Like there's still a lot that's left to be figured out, and we can't really say anything with any type of certainty. But I also tweeted out about like the numbers for COD Mobile. COD Mobile's player base has increased every single month since June 2022, and it's also increased in player base by like, what did I say? Like 60% since the end of 2020. Like it's not even like, because with Apex Mobile, it made sense. Like the game, it was all down arrows. It was down, down, down. Like nothing was paying off for them at all. And kind of in that same vein, I think this does also raise the question of how big of a split is Timmy actually taking from these games? If like you're seeing multiple games that are partnered with either Timmy or Lightspeed, different Tencent studios, and just going the opposite direction, saying we don't even want to work with you altogether. So that's another thing that I'm kind of curious about, because if COD Mobile's player base is going up pretty much nonstop for the last 2 years, the fact that they're just going to go ahead and say, cut things, we don't want to do this anymore, it's gotta be like pretty minuscule profits at that point.
I mean, if they're making, just because there's $30 million in revenue being brought in, that doesn't mean $30 million is hitting their bank account and they're walking away, giving themselves bonuses. That means it has to be split amongst the different companies. Obviously, all the employees working on the project. So it's, how many other games? Is it just Apex and COD Mobile right now that are like Tencent?
I mean, PUBG's
like,
Lightspeed. PUBG's, walking away, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about that myself. Like, maybe this is maybe internally. I mean, I knew the reason for Apex shutting down wasn't what they said in the blog. Like, it was, they just lied. They were like, we had differences, like, but maybe it's deep down, it's something with Lightspeed and Tencent or Timmy. Like, maybe working with them, they're being too demanding. They're taking too much profits. They're not, even though there's such a big player base. I mean, there's been situations, I'm trying to think of like companies, but like, on paper, it can look like companies are successful, but behind the scenes, it's kind of like, you can have a doctor who makes $250,000 a year, but if they have, if their lifestyle is $300,000 a year, well, then they're still broke.
Yeah.
Like, you can have a company on paper make a lot of money, but still be broke. So that could also come into play. There's just a million factors. I think I found an article that was going over, like their negotiations or something, and it mentioned like April 25th, like that there will be a deciding date of like some EU, corporate, committee. Someone's gonna decide something. So like we're not even gonna know till April. We probably won't know. They announced this last year in June, like almost a year ago. So we could have months, a year to go before this happens, and by then who knows? I do want to ask you though about the Warzone Mobile. They were just like later in 2023, and I watched your video, and you were like, you don't know if that means later in the year or just after this has come out, which would mean at any time.
Yeah, I think it is definitely very ambiguous. So the actual phrasing is Warzone Mobile is scheduled for release later in 2023. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be late 2023. I've heard like rumors of things, and I think like at the latest it'll be late summer, but for the most part, everything that I've seen leads me to believe that it'll be early summer for the release of Warzone Mobile. It's obviously, like you said, another thing that is a big question mark. And to a certain extent, I think there's a possibility that the success of Warzone Mobile determines whether or not this is actually going to be something that even happens. Because if Warzone Mobile flops, like, I can't imagine any type of scenario where they're going to axe COD Mobile as well, when that's their like mainline growing product. That's the bread and butter. You know that that's going to have success. And it seems like the main goal, if they're not making that much money from COD Mobile, it seems like the main goal is to help COD Mobile juice their concurrent player numbers, because that's like the only thing that's been keeping the monthly active users number afloat for Call of Duty is Call of Duty Mobile. So you want to be able to keep those numbers up, and if Warzone Mobile is not able to do that, if it's not able to run on enough devices, if the player base isn't big enough, then I feel like it would be really, really difficult to justify giving COD Mobile the X as well.
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of speculation. All we have is like 2 bullet points in a leaked legal document to discuss. So like, while I did, title my video, Call of Duty Mobile shutting down, question mark, exclamation mark, like, it's more
Ducky,
or less,
you're part of the issue.
Oh, I am aware of that, bro. But I go to bed with, peacefully knowing that, like, I would rather title my video that and have more people informed and maybe more people hate me than have little Tommy, later on down the line, his favorite game is shut down and he had no clue. Like, that's, I mean, for Apex Mobile, it's not clickbait, but for COD Mobile, that's how I go to sleep at night without, nightmares or anything. So I don't know. It sucks. For all of you gamers out there, I will be starting a support group. Those of you who are welcome are Fortnite mobile players, Apex mobile players, and soon to be Call of Duty mobile players. So I'll make a Discord. We can have weekly meetings about how the mobile gaming industry is just becoming way too corporatized, and people don't understand how to actually run games anymore.
Yep, it's I mean, obviously, the last question is, will there be refunds? And to that,
Bro, no.
I would be willing to bet a significant amount of money that the answer to that is going to be no. Especially, I mean, number one, like we talked about, phasing out is probably going to take a while. Number two, if Apex Mobile's not giving any refunds after 9 months of their game being out, I don't see COD Mobile making it happen. That's part of the reason why I hope they just leave the servers up and people can continue to play the game, because there are people who have spent insane amounts of money on this game. Like, we were talking about how much Raider has spent on this, and I believe last time he updated us, it was 100K plus. So there's some pricey accounts out there, and I know those players are the ones that Call of Duty wants to make their way over to Warzone Mobile, and if they lose out on $100,000 worth of purchases, that's going to drastically decrease the odds of them making that switch.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big things about, like, I think it's 20% of like spenders. It's like 20% in the 20-80% rule. Have you heard of that before?
Yeah,
It's like 20% of players account for 80% of the revenue. Of
the spending,
yeah. And so that is also a very big point. And I think I would guarantee that there are no refunds being handed out, because Apex Mobile was a little shocking because of how short the game had been out. Call of Duty Mobile's been out for 3.5, 4 years now.
Yeah.
Like, you can't play innocent and be like, I mean, yeah, if you just bought a lucky draw last week, but you've had 3+ years. It's not like you haven't got use out of your, items. I think Apex Mobile, where that was frustrating, was people, like, it was so recent. Like, people were spending money months ago when the game was finally getting good, and hundreds of dollars on heirlooms like 4 months ago, and then they were like, well, sorry guys, LOL, get wrecked. But COD Mobile it doesn't have that. So I don't think there's refunds.
And at the end of the day, every game has a terms of service. And if I haven't read that terms of service, but if I had to guess, it probably said no money bag. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also like Raider knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like you spend $100,000 in a game, you can't get that back anyways.
Yeah.
Like no one spends money on skins assuming they're gonna get it back, so you just kind of kiss that money goodbye. Like he obviously has fun with it, and people spend money on video games, like they enjoy it. But there is my big concern is if this plan goes into action, how many players are they gonna lose? Because I know I was in your stream when you hosted a poll today, and Little B hosted a poll of like how many people are gonna switch over to Warzone. I also can't know the validity of that because I have to imagine a lot of those numbers are skewed because of emotional
They were just
responses.
like mad, like no, I'm never playing it, never Call of Duty again.
Yeah, but it was bad. It was like 70% saying no, 30% saying they would switch. I would put the number at like 60-40, 70-30 the opposite way as long as their devices can support it. Because I know like the entire Apex mobile community like is already talking about like Apex 2.0 and how they're gonna get back to grinding. And I'm like, boys, what are you doing? So I don't know. It's a crazy situation. It sucks because it felt like we were making progress. Like, 2023, like 2022 was supposed to be the year, but 2023 is when the betas are done, the games are coming out, they're releasing, and now we've had 2 games. One confirmed to be shutting down, another with a rumor to be getting phased out. Valorant Mobile has been pushed back. Warzone Mobile probably isn't going to release when it said it was going to release, and it's just mobile is just not shaping up to what it should be. It's scary.
Yeah, obviously things have not gone the way that we expected in 2023. One more thing that I was kind of curious about, because I saw some people talking about it on Twitter, is obviously like most of the things that ceased production have been like between American companies and Chinese developers, and there's been like a big question of, is there political motivation for some of this stuff as well? Because obviously there are like tensions between the United States and China. And that's something that could, especially for like a giant like Microsoft, like it's one thing for Activision, they just make video games, but Microsoft has its hands in so many different things. Could there also be a possibility that part of this is politically motivated as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility very well. I mean, Microsoft has their hands in so many cookie jars of tech, and tech controls every aspect of people's lives. And I mean, even people already talked about like the TikTok ban.
Yeah, like TikTok getting not shut down, but like age restrictions and stuff.
Yeah, like the U.S. government for the last few years has been starting to crack down on like Chinese tech companies. And I mean, you can have your opinions on that, but if they've already proven it with some, tech products from China, why not, Tencent? Tencent they already have stakes in American companies. They think if Microsoft, I guess, directly owns a company that works with them, then, they might be putting code in Call of Duty to track devices. And like, you start getting the mumbo jumbo thrown in there, but like, it's a possibility. Like it's possible. I don't know what else to say, but it could very likely be a reality that the U.S. government, I mean, because they have to basically make their proposal of why they're going to buy Activision, what they're going to do with the company. And if the regulators see, oh, well, there's this Chinese company in there that you guys can't work with them, they're like, oh, well, we'll just axe that, we'll get rid of that in a few years. So as long as you guys are okay with us working with them for a few years, get rid of the game, and then we won't work with China more. That could be real use case, or real not use case, problematic case. I don't know.
But we've seen like that exact type of thing happen in India, where perhaps if developers had known something like that was going to happen, they would have cut ties sooner. Like the Indian government just completely bans PUBG Mobile because it's developed by a Chinese company. So could it be possible that the United States has plans to ban Chinese developed apps? Like, who knows, with the way things have been heading with TikTok and everything like that, like these big companies could have information that something like that's going to happen. And the decision to X COD Mobile could be preemptive in regards to that as well.
Bruh, ain't no way the U.S. government trying to get rid of my COD Mobile skins, man. All my lucky draws, all my hard-earned, man.
I don't know, man.
It's always the ops.
Okay.
This is a political podcast. Anyways, thank you for watching the Two Thumbs Up podcast. We're speculating. We're just talking out loud. Especially in a time like this, it helps. I think it helps to like just talk it out. Like it sounds cringe, but I remember when Fortnite Mobile, like it was just
Fortnite Mobile is like, cringe.
Okay, you know what I mean? But like it's things that don't necessarily have like it doesn't make sense. This makes no sense. So things that make no sense, I feel like it helps to like, you know, try to like make it make sense, or at least not just go hate on people and start yelling at people. Like try to understand where people are coming from. Try to understand why Microsoft might be doing this. Try to understand the implications and the possibilities and the outcomes, and figure things out and like think logically about the situation rather than emotionally. Because, you know, if you think emotionally, you're just always gonna be mad at COD Mobile for phasing out if it happens, then realizing there's other great games out there. Why are you sighing?
I'm still sad. I'm allowed to be sad. I've spent 3.5 years of my life on this game.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir. What can I say? You know, you can be sad, but I always say it gets easier, Bobby, over time.
Okay, thanks, Duck.
The emotions.
Thanks, Duckster. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Listen, I'll be doing individual counseling sessions in the Discord. We'll have it linked down below in the description. I do charge hourly rates.
I just found out that we have a Discord.
Soon after this episode. I'm not a licensed psychiatrist.
So
Yeah. But I don't know. It sucks, but it's also not like Fortnite Mobile where we were like 2 weeks. They're like, you guys got 2 weeks. Apex was at least nice, like 3 months. And then COD Mobile's like, all right, we'll give you guys like 2 years. So
just give us 5 years. That's all we need. It's 5 years. We'll be good.
5?
I'm just kidding. Three would be fine.
Okay.
3 would be fine. All right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the Two Thumbs Up podcast. We want to talk about positive things in the mobile gaming sphere, but there's very few positive things at the moment to talk about. Like we started
this podcast. It's like, oh, dude, mobile gaming's taking off. We gotta start a mobile gaming podcast before everything blows up, and then it would.
Hey, well, it actually blew up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it did.
We were right about one thing.
Yep.
All
right.
Maybe the next podcast episode will be positive. Who knows?
I hope so.
Same.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, follow wherever you are, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.